Open session, flag salute. Matt, would you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sandy, roll call.
Trustee Faust.
Here.
Trustee Rushane.
Here.
Trustee Levy.
Here.
Trustee Gould.
Here.
Trustee Weideman.
Here.
Thank you.
Before we start the meeting, we have noticed that on September 6th of 2013, Governor Brown signed Senate Bill 751, amending the Ralph M. Brown Act to require votes of each member of the legislative body of the local agencies to be publicly recorded, obviously including school districts. Therefore, we are required to dispense with the current show of hand votes, and we are now required to take a roll call vote each time, with the board scribe calling out each name and recording the ayes or noes. So before we take action, I just wanted to advise the board that there would be a change in procedure. So we are in compliance with the law. All right, so report out of closed session. The board met on 4 different items: existing litigation, conference with labor negotiator, public employee discipline dismissal release complaint, and public employee performance evaluation superintendent. No action was taken. I need an approval of the minutes for December 11th and December 18th.
I'm going to approve the minutes for both dates.
I'll second.
Any changes? Roll call, please.
Trustee Faust.
Aye.
Trustee Rushane.
Yes.
Trustee Gould.
Yes.
Trustee Levy.
Yes.
Trustee Weideman.
Yes.
Threw us for a loop there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oops.
Going to mix it up just to keep us on our toes.
All right. We need an approval of the agenda and the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda for January 22nd, 2014 meeting and all consent agenda items.
Second?
No changes? Roll call, please.
Trustee Faust.
Yes.
Trustee Rushane.
Yes.
Trustee Levy.
Yes.
Trustee Gould.
Yes.
Trustee Weideman.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. This is communications. This portion of the agenda is available to the public to address the board on any item, any issue that is not on an agenda. The maximum time allowed for any speaker is 3 minutes. LSEA?
Not tonight.
CSEA? People wishing to address the board on a non-agenda item? Correspondence? No correspondence. Board Superintendent Communications. We'll start at the end since Richard's in the hot seat now.
Since our last meeting, I went on a tour of IBL. Went on a tour of Ocean Shore, the kindergarten tour. I went to the Take Read Aloud. Had a good time reading to the kids. And then I went and observed the Martin Luther King celebration at Ocean Shore School the other day.
Eric?
I was with Richard at the Ortega Read Aloud, which was good fun. I was able to go out to lunch with Wendy and Tom and Pilar Schneider. Pilar
Nice.
is retiring, leaving Pacifica, moving back to New Jersey, and a big loss for our community, and certainly has invested more years in this district than most in many different ways, as a teacher, as a trustee, and in the music program. So just we'll miss her, and it was real nice to get together with her before she left. I attended and observed the Ocean Shore lockdown drill, which was very impressive, not without its glitches, but what was most impressive was that absolutely everybody took it seriously. The kids, the staff, classified, certificated, everybody took it like, we got to, we have to learn how to do this, and there wasn't any giggling or kids running around. It was 100% to task, so I was very impressed with that. I attended the liaison committee meeting with the Water District and City Council and Jefferson. I don't know if you have some stuff to report on that or not. Good conversations. City manager is our new city manager is very interested in working with us in terms of collaboration. So it's.
We talked about the Affordable Care Act, and we're not quite certain the impact it's going to have on employers and monitoring. So it's something that we might start wrapping our heads around, how we might be able to jointly develop some type of process to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our employees.
I also attended the celebration at the Little Brown Church for the Historical Society. The church was actually a school at one point for our district. They were gifted $200,000 by the Lions Club to complete the renovation and make it a museum, so that's going to be pretty exciting. Also, at the same afternoon, I went to the book signing of Chris Hunter's new book, Local Legends of Pacifica. Chris is a former publisher of the Tribune, now is Supervisor Don Horsley's aide. And I was struck by the fact that in that book were Don Beck, a former principal at then at the school district known as Laguna Salada, Gretchen Delman, Ellen James, as well as former board members Julie Lancel, Mike O'Neill, Pat Pack, Pilar Schneider, and one of the first superintendents, Fred Lucas. So that was kind of fun seeing how well represented this district was in terms of legendary people in Pacifica. I also went with the Rotary Club to Sunset Ridge to deliver dictionaries to the third graders, which was a lot of fun, and did that at Ocean Shore as well. Last weekend I went to the Pacifica Democrats and heard Assemblyman Kevin Mullen speak, and one of the things he talked about was LCFF, and he was of the opinion...
Could you say that for the audience, what that is?
You mean an acronym? Yes. Local Control Funding Formula, the new way that we are now getting funded by the state. It's the biggest change in 30 years for school funding, and as with so many government programs, we're learning what it means as it's implemented. He was of the opinion, he was very supportive of it, of course, but he also felt that there was going to be legislation for the next several years to tweak it, that as the unintended consequences of the rollout were piling up, and he felt confident there was going to be lots of changes coming as they tried to fix things that they didn't realize were going to happen, which just means, Josie, more confusion for you. And then yesterday I sat in on the Health Benefits Committee, heard the CalPERS presentation, and that was interesting. Another group of people who are working real hard to move the district forward. So that's my report. I have more time than most.
Sounds like you haven't retired.
It's not an original observation.
I was, well, nobody's mentioned the last week's work study, so so you can add that to your list. There's last week's work study and the audit committee meeting, and I went on a field trip to the Sanchez Adobe, which actually that's a really amazing field trip, and they wanted me to remind people that they have like a little fair in September, and the docent there said that a lot of people don't seem to find out about it because I think she said they don't really seem to advertise it far enough in advance. So I thought, it being January, I would start now and hope that people would go. It's a really amazing place, and I live 5 minutes from there and had never been before, so that was a real shame. So thought I would put in that little plug.
So last night I was at the Sunset Ridge PTO meeting, and which was very well attended. It was a great meeting, and Tina did this very lovely presentation that I never thought you'd go that fast and get that through. The screaming kids, the babies crying. Yeah, you did it, Tina. You held them for those few minutes, just got it through, got that information out. That was great. And then was with Siva today. I saw Siva today at the county office where we're doing Silicon Valley Math Initiative professional development, and a lot of our teachers attended that, so that was great. And then Ray and I were at the Respect 24/7 at the county office a few weeks ago. Let's see, it says January 9th, to get a little more, a little information on the Fair Education Act, and some students were there presenting and talking on behalf of, it's AB 1266, and they are calling it the Sex Segregated School Programs, Activities, and Facilities Act, or something like that.
Wow.
There's an acronym.
Yeah. Let's figure that one out.
So, students were talking about what it was like to be transgendered on a public school campus, and what reactions from parents were at a dance, and how one student navigated her school by first working with a teacher, saying this is what's going on, and having that teacher kind of help pave the way for her with other teachers, the rest of the staff. So they were talking about their experiences, here right in San Bruno, and then in San Jose. And so, just something to keep our attention. But the other thing that needs to continue to and the other thing about that was that county council uses our version of the board policy as the representative version that they're using all over the county. So, what we discussed that night is being used all over, because we have a really good, solid version that they really appreciated. But the other thing that was discussed was the Fair Education Act, which is 2 years old at this point. But Fair Education Act requires that the historical figures who are gay and lesbian and bisexual and et cetera, and people with disabilities and people of other cultural groups need to be addressed in the classroom, not just one day a year, but as historical figures, that are part of our education. And the county may end up having some lessons online that we can reference, so that we don't have to say we can't do it because we have the materials. So I think that was it. I just thought on that one thing.
All right. Well, I've been teaching children, my first year teaching, but did attend the work study last week, and just to let folks know a little bit about that, there was twofold. One is to really talk about facilities and fulfill the commitment that previous boards have made about maintaining our facilities and protecting that asset after they so generously gave us a $30 million bond to redo our schools, to come up with start the process of a long-term plan for our buildings, as well as an opportunity for the board to report out from California School Boards Association, which is our professional development, and things that we saw and shared to help drive forward our district. And I think the one thing I always take away from that every year is just how well run our district is. That I go into this thinking, they're going to have great ideas. Check, we do that. Check, we do that. Oh, we could do that a little better. Check, we do that. And it's really reassuring to see from an outside perspective some validation about how strong our district is in a lot of different areas. So I always enjoy that.
Okay, and as we begin our new year, Happy New Year, everyone. We had the opportunity for the North County Math Collaborative or Consortium to get together with our administrators, and so that is Jefferson High School District, Pacifica School District, Jefferson Elementary School District, Brisbane, and Bayshore. And we have a consortium that is really focused on moving forward our Common Core state standards in mathematics. So we're talking about alignment. We're looking at math units. We're getting the support of the Silicon Valley Math Initiative, which has been in our district for many, many years, but really taking it from a TK to 12 perspective. And so it was very exciting to get the administrators in the room, start to have those robust conversations about our direction, and really beginning that partnership in communication. Another thing that I was able to do is to visit many of the schools this month and have what I call our professional conversations with our principals to see how I can support and what we need to do differently. And it's just amazing to see the work that is happening in the classroom. And I attribute it to all wonderful teachers and working very hard. I see parents in the hallways doing the art lessons, and it really demonstrates to me that it truly takes a team. It's a team approach to ensure that we provide that strong educational foundation for our students. So it's really a pleasure to be able to go witness and see.
All right, so we have two wonderful presentations tonight. The first is from the California AAUW, the Tech Track Camp Scholars.
And Arlene Hoffman will be presenting tonight with our scholarship winners, Daisy Paulson from Valimar and Natalie Grogan from Cabrillo. And I do want to mention, this is Arlene's last year with us as coordinator. She will still be an active AAUW member, but she is handing off the baton, and it takes two of us to coordinate now after Arlene. So Karen Irvin and I will be co-coordinators for Tech Trek. We don't want this to fall by the wayside, because tonight you will get to hear what a fabulous opportunity it is for our girls. So Arlene.
Thank you very much. To start with, I'd like to tell you what Tech Trek is and how it came about. I'm a member of the Pacifica AAUW branch, and AAUW stands for American Association of University Women, and that organization promotes education of females. And in 1998, one of the branches in San Mateo County got the idea to start Tech Trek. Actually, Pacifica branch started expanding your horizons right before, way before Tech Trek. So our branches are encouraging education. And in 1998, we sent a girl, one, to Tech Trek, and then the next year, somebody said they wanted more girls to go, and they donated the cost of sending another girl. So Pacifica was able to send two girls. And then from then on, we used the Fog Fest. In the beginning, it raised all the money we needed to send two girls. Now it's because the cost of sending girls has gone up, it supplies most of the money that we need per the girls. And this year, I think it was $800 a girl was the scholarship. So they go to Tech Trek, and Tech Trek it means that our girls went to Stanford and live on Stanford's campus in a week in July and did a lot of things that interest them. Tech Trek specifically is looking for girls interested in science and math and technology. And the way we select these girls is that we ask our 7th and 8th teachers of 7th and 8th grade girls to recommend girls, and we give them application forms, and they do that. And then the Pacifica AAUW branch from there selects two girls that we will send. If we raised more money, we could send more girls. The Stanford program got so popular that it had to go to 2 weeks because 1 week couldn't house all of the girls that branches that wanted to go. And then since then, or during the same time, 7 more branches from the University of California have joined in. On the back of one of the girls' shirts is the branches, the UC branches. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to introduce one of the girls who will come up and tell you about Tech Trek, and then she will introduce the other girl, and then I will do the same with their parents so that you can hear from the parents about Tech Trek. So I'd like to introduce from Valimar School, Daisy Paulson, and it's her shirt that has the other branches on it. Come on up, Daisy.
So this presentation isn't mine, so don't start it yet. I'm just going to tell you about what I did. So I'm going to start from when I got recommended. My teacher asked me during recess if I would be interested in this camp. So he gave me a brochure, and I looked through it, and I told my mom, and we thought it would be really exciting. So I got the application, I filled it out, I wrote the essay, and I sent it in. And then we got a phone call saying that they'd like me for an interview. So I went in front of a little panel of ladies, and they interviewed me. And then after that, I got a call saying that I got in. So then after that, I started getting a bunch of paperwork saying what to bring, what to do, all that kind of fun stuff. And so I got really, really excited. And then the day before, I could barely sleep, and then we drive down to Stanford, and we got there a little early, so we went around the campus, and it's beautiful. And then after that, I found out that the class I got to be in was forensics, which is what I really wanted to do. And so in that class, I got to learn about like blood typing and fingerprints and solving little crimes and stuff, so that was really cool. And I'm pretty interested in that, so I think that might be something I want to look into for when I grow up. And other things that we did included robotics, so we got to program robots and make them do certain tasks, which was really cool. And we had a star party where we went out at night, and a bunch of people brought their telescopes, and we got to look at different constellations and planets, which was really amazing. And then we went to a NASA little place, and then we got an orientation and a presentation about that, and that's really interesting as well. And then I was able to go to the pool at Stanford, and I'm a swimmer, so that was really amazing. The pool is really beautiful. And let's see. We had this thing called a spaghetti bridge, where you had to make a bridge out of spaghetti, and I had to hold a penny, and he wanted to make it as long as possible. And the instructor was telling us to ask questions about what we could do and what we couldn't do. And everyone was having a really difficult time because their spaghetti would break or they'd run out of tape. And we asked, can we share spaghetti? Can we use each other's tape? And she said yes. And we had no idea that that would even be a possibility. That was her whole point, was to ask questions, because you never know what you can and can't do. So that was the main point of that activity, which I thought was a really good point. So now whenever I'm in class, I always ask questions about, can I use this? Can I do that? So it comes in handy. Since I was in the forensics class, I got to go to the Stanford Blood Lab. So I got to look at what they do with the blood and blood transfusions and donations and stuff, so that was really cool. And then they gave us a Stanford Blood Center t-shirt, which was also really cool. And I got to sleep in an actual dorm at Stanford, which was amazing because it kind of gave me the real college experience, except not really. And I met a lot of amazing people who are interested in the same things that I am, so that was really great. And I had a really great time. So if you guys have any questions for me about my personal experience or anything that I did, please ask them. Anything?
I guess we need to learn how to ask questions.
Okay, well then here's Natalie Rogan with her presentation.
Thank you.
Natalie, do you want to use the clicker, or would you rather the...
Sure.
Okay, perfect.
Hi, I'm Natalie Grogan, and I'm from Cabrillo, and I was a Tech Trek camper with Daisy. Am I using this right?
You pointed at this.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
It might be that the clicker needs to be turned on.
Sorry about that. Let's try that.
Okay, thank you. My core class was marine biology, and I had a lot of fun with it. We got to learn about ocean zones, sea creatures, fish, and birds through a lot of fun art projects. And we even got to dissect a fish and squid, which I'd never done before. So that was a lot of fun. We went to 8 seminars, but these were my 4 favorite. We went to a seminar about architecture, a seminar about astronomy, and a seminar about college finance, which was very helpful because it told me all about what I need to do to get into college. We also went to a professional women's night where we met with successful professional women and got to ask them questions. We did a ton of fun activities. We made a robot and got to make commands for it to do. We extracted the DNA from a strawberry. So that was really cool. And we had a star party, and we got to look at the stars through telescopes. In chemistry, we tested concentrations for vitamin C. I went to a veterinarian workshop where I got to meet a veterinarian and ask her questions. And my dorm group constructed a working Ferris wheel from rolled newspaper on Build It Night, which was very difficult. We went on 2 field trips, the Marsh trip, where we saw some beautiful scenery, and we got to go bird watching, and the NASA trip, where I got to watch a movie about space, see some space rocks, and sit in a mock-up of a control room. Tech Trek benefited me because it got me interested in a job with animals, which I wasn't interested in before I went to the veterinarian workshop. It got me thinking about college and how I was going to get in, and it made me responsible. And perhaps most importantly, it put me in an environment with people who love to learn. Fellow campers, dorm moms, teachers, junior and senior counselors all made a lasting impression on me. I will never forget the summer I went to Tech Trek. Thank you. Any questions? No? Okay. Thank you. I think I covered a lot.
Well, you can see why I was a teacher. I just loved to listen to them. I would like to say one other thing. I was speaking with no notes, so naturally I left out a little bit of what was on my mind to tell you. And there were 2 other things I wanted to tell you. One is the only way you can go to Tech Trek is through the AAUW Tech Trek program. Nobody can pay to get their child in. Nobody outside for Pacifica, outside of the students in Pacifica School District can be chosen because that's how our branch is doing it. And I know in years the requests come in from other states. Can we send our girl or something? This is the only way. So it's really an honor and a privilege to select these girls. Also, this year, the Tech program is going from a state program to a national program, and several other states are now beginning to do a Tech Trek program. With that, having said that, that's the part I left out of no notes. Okay. I would like to introduce Lillian Paulson, which is Daisy's mother, because when we were talking on the phone and I called her and I said, could Daisy come to the board meeting, she started telling me about what she felt once Daisy came back, and I said, you have to tell everybody. So, there you go.
Good evening. I just want to express my gratitude to Daisy's teacher for recognizing her passion for math and science and recommending her, first of all. And second of all, I'd like to say my daughter came back a young woman with a drive and direction. It's hard to show up Stanford, so we've got a lot of work ahead of us apparently, which I know that she is gaining the skills daily to accomplish. And thank you so much, Arlene. She's been an angel through this, and just a remarkable opportunity for my daughter, and I'm so grateful. So thank you.
And also, Joe Fox is going to, Natalie's mom, is going to come up and tell you her experience of Tech Trek.
Hi, well, I did write some notes because I can't remember things generally. So I just wanted to let you know from a mom's point of view, the things that we think about when our kids go away to something like this. So I was really delighted when Natalie was selected to go. I knew she'd really benefit from it. And I also knew that I could never afford to send Natalie to a camp of that sort of caliber. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity for her. So it took place at beautiful Stanford campus, excellent accommodations, the catering was wonderful. And, you know, the quality and choice of meals was important for Natalie because she has some food sensitivities, and previously she's had a bit of a challenging time when she goes away from home. But this camp was absolutely fantastic. And I was very comfortable with the level of care and attention she received from her dorm mum and from the nurse, both of whom communicated with me via email and phone when they needed to. Her asthma flared up, and she received very relevant advice and help, and she was able to relax and enjoy herself and make the most of things. So I appreciated being able to talk to her as well. Every evening, they have a specified time when the girls are given their cell phone and they're allowed to phone home. And it worked perfectly. And then the cell phones are taken away. I think the biggest benefit for Natalie was to provide her with an insight into college life. Although, you know, I have a degree and I'm a firm believer in the college system, I'm really unable to give Natalie informed advice on how to navigate the system here in the US. So through the seminars, Tech Trek provided her with information on finances and what college selectors look for. She was able to ask a question which at the time was very pertinent for her. She was thinking about where to go for high school, and some of her friends were going on to private high school. And she was concerned that, you know, public high school is in her future, and she was a little concerned that perhaps that means she's going to miss out or her chances at college won't be so great. So she was able to ask that question to the Stanford College selectors, and they told her that although it's important the high school you go to, what is far more important is that you make full use of every opportunity your high school provides for you. So they really look at that. And she came back much more confident, much more calm. She had a fun time, and I think she's looking forward now to high school and college with a plan. So that's great. So thank you.
Thank you for coming. You're both lovely young ladies, and we appreciate your time on a school night, and thank you for sharing with us. That's incredible. And thank you, Arlene and the AAUW, for providing this opportunity for our students. Okay. All right. So we have one more presentation, and that's regarding Litwave, Pacifica Library, the Library Foundation, and Pacifica School Volunteers. So Gail Benjamin and Sue, are you going to? Oh, okay.
She's going to watch.
We'll be here. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gail Benjamin, and I work for the Pacifica Libraries. And we are presenting our third Litwave this year. I can't believe we're at number 3 already. But it has been a wonderful opportunity for the library to be able to interface with the school district. Even from the very first Litwave, we had events that we partnered with the school district. And so this year I wanted to tell you which ones we're going to do this year with the school district. We will do a poem in your pocket, which we did last year. And so all the students at all the schools, the K through 5, receive a poem when they go to their school library that they carry around in their pocket. And they take them back to class, and they read them in class, they trade them, they take them home. We heard from parents that the kids were reading them at dinner time, and it was very popular last year. We're also going to do Poems in Chalk, where the 6th through 8th grade students, they all get a chalk kit, and some of the schools do chalk graffiti, chalk bombs. Some of them did Poems in Chalk, which was IBL. That was very popular, and they did chalk poems out on the playground, and we'll do that this year. We're also going to have a poetry showcase with Mike Taylor, who has been working with the school district, and he is going to do a Spark Poetry Showcase and open mic for the, mostly for the 5th grade, so they're going to be performing. It's be open to the public, anybody can come. And he's working on getting IBL because he thinks that Ocean Shore is just not going to be big enough. He thinks that there's going to be an awful lot of people that are going to come watch their kids perform their poetry. New this year is going to be a program called Write On, and it'll be for the whole month of February. And it'll be students at the school district, grades K through 5, will be encouraged to write an original poem and bring it to the library. We will keep the poems in a binder, and the kids will get a little surfboard with their school color, and they will write their names on it, and we'll have a wave wall. And so all the surfboards will go on the wave wall. And whichever school per capita has the most entries, they get a gigantic stuffed sea creature to keep in their library for the year until next year. So we'll be encouraging the kids to bring their poems into the library, and we hope that that'll be a very visual, thing up on our walls at both libraries. And then the kids who want to, we're going to have pizza and poems at Florey's for our last event for Lit Wave, and the kids can come by Florey's Books, read their poems, have some pizza, and hopefully meet our new Pacifica Poet Laureate at the same time. So those are the events that we're partnering with the school district. We also have many, many other events. You could look at our website, which is www.litwave.org, to see everything else we're doing. Chris Hunter will be doing a presentation of his book. We have Riddles at the Pier. We have some musical story time at the Surf Spot, and you're welcome to come to any of our Litwave events. Okay, thank you. So we have handouts for both of these two things for you. Okay, we got them.
District business, the Parcel Tax Oversight Committee Annual Report. This is an information item.
So both the original Measure N parcel tax and then Measure L, in the ballot language, it stated that we would have an independent oversight committee. And so we did form a committee initially, and for the most part, we've been able to keep our committee members together, and you can see the list of committee members there. We do meet annually after the books are closed and after the unaudited actuals are approved by the board, and we present the expenditure report to the committee. And the committee does have some very good discussion about the expenditures, the way the board has chosen to spend them, and they review ballot language and whether or not the expenditures fit in with the ballot language. And both Wendy and I are there, and Joan is also comes to the committee meetings, and Richard as an alternate. So the committee last met on November 5th, and we're very grateful for the time that the committee puts in on this project. Mr. Richard Zoromsky is here, and he's the Ocean Shore representative, and he will be presenting the committee's report this evening.
I have a few notes, but I don't need to follow them so much because I think you might have a report.
It is on the screen, too, the committee report.
And it's on the screen. And I will introduce myself. I'm Richard Zoromsky. I've given this report before. You've probably seen me around school, Ocean Shore. What's funny is that Josie was saying this is the second ballot measure now that the city of Pacifica has approved, and I've been on the committee since 2000, whenever it first formed back in 2008, when we had Measure N, and now it's Measure L. And my wife and I got into a fight this morning over whether it was Measure N or Measure L, and I said it was both. So that's right. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. But right now, it's Measure L. And at the time when I first was a member of committee, I think my children were only maybe 2008, 3 years old, and so I was one of the members at large at the time. And as my children grew up, so did I, and now I'm the Ocean Shore representative. The Parcel Tax Committee is made up of parents from each of the schools, as well as representatives from the community, which I was interested at the time when it was first passed, and that was why I was on the committee. We meet probably 1 to 2 times a year. I think recently it's been about once a year, usually at the end of the year to review the expenditures made on the budget. And then we make our annual report to the public, which I'm making today. And this was one of the commitments that was made as part of the measure to keep the public informed that the money that's being raised every year is being spent in the way that the voters had provided. And we don't have the numbers on the presentation tonight, but it's about $1 million a year, which is pretty significant for this district. It's very helpful to, as you'll see in a moment, in the items that are being provided throughout. And there's the numbers. And actually, there was some carryover from last year, so there's even more this year. But as you'll see from the programs that are being funded through the expenditures, it's really been supportive of a lot of things that had Measure N and Measure L not been passed. would have gone by the wayside and really would have, impacted the district. So after a careful review of each of the expenditures, the Parcel Tax Oversight Committee reviews each of the expenditures, each line item individually, and really as part of our due diligence and our commitment to, being on this committee, we go through each of the expenditures and then we tie it to the ballot language. Because the voters of Pacifica said we want to do several things. We want to protect local elementary and middle schools from state budget cuts. We want to maintain high-quality education, protect academic programs in math, science, reading and writing, attract and retain qualified teachers, and to support library services and classroom computer instruction. So when the committee meets, when we talk about each line item, we see how each of those line items can fit into the ballot language. And I think, again, that fulfills our duty to the community and to the folks who, were very, graciously voted for this measure and keeps the schools as great as they are. There's a couple other requirements from the ballot that there'd be a senior exemption, no funds for administrator salaries, or at least none of the funds from the parcel tax would be used for administrator salaries. The funds will stay in Pacifica and promote, the Pacifica schools, and there'd be independent citizen oversight, which is what I'm here to provide today. Again, we've reviewed all of these expenditures, and you can see here, these are the expenditures from last year. As you can see, the teacher salaries are a significant part of the expenditures. That definitely fits into the ballot language because one of the main goals was to keep qualified teachers, and, well, you have to pay the teachers to be here. So without salaries and without being able to provide them with those salaries, it would impact a lot of different programs in the district, especially in the classroom. The BITSA, beginning teacher funds, I think it's a small amount this year, but in years past it's been a little bit bigger. I think there were some different funds used this year, but again, the BITSA is the beginning teacher support and assessment program, and that we thought supports high quality education and helps and attracts qualified teachers and trains newer teachers to really promote the district. The literacy and math coaching as well supports high quality education. That coaching, and Josie, correct me if I'm wrong, that's funds a specific person, if I'm correct. Yes. And that person is a coach that goes around and helps throughout the district. So again, helping the district, helping district wide. Again, geometry district wide definitely is something that supports high quality education in Pacifica, and then the counseling program, which the committee said that protects a vital academic program that probably would have been cut, or at least cut significantly, had the parcel tax funds not been there. So as you can see, the funds are being used, as the voters had asked. I think the committee members really feel like they have, really a vested interest in making sure that the money is used as it was voted to be used in the city of Pacifica, and I think that everybody on the committee really spends their time and really looks at these items, and it's not just a rubber stamp. Everybody talks about it. There's good discussion at the meetings, and again, they're only once a year, but at the same time, I think they really everybody takes their job and role seriously. So just in closing, over the past several years, education funding has been cut repeatedly. And, because the state, well, maybe in the past at least, and hopefully things will change for the better, state budget hasn't really adequately funded, to really the level of quality that we want for education here in Pacifica. And the parcel tax money is being used to make a huge difference in our school district, and I think it's really shown. So, unless you have any questions, I'll move along.
So, Josie, we're not due to get back to our 2007-2008 funding until what decade?
It's 7-8 years from now.
Okay. So, when we talk about, I'm glad you raised that point about that the state funding's turning around, but just to get back to the level where we were at when this all started is 7 to 8 years. So this funding is going to be incredibly important to maintain our district.
Right, and I'm not sure, there's several years left on the funding at this point.
It's 2016 is when it sunsets. 2017, December 2017.
Eric?
Just say thank you. I mean, I was able to attend the November meeting, and I really appreciate that this group of people has stuck with this in this series, because I think it's really the pact that the board makes with the community in terms of transparency and ensuring that when we do go to the community and ask for their support and funding, we spend it the way we say we're going to spend it. And if you look at the list of people on here, it's certainly not a rubber stamp group.
It definitely is not. And you say that, it's interesting that you really do have a cross-section of the community. Obviously, you have the parents from each of the schools, but you really, aside from that, there's really a decent cross-section of the community. People you go, wow, okay, that's, and they're people that, we don't know, nobody knows how people voted for the ballot, but they're in there saying, hey, this is how the people voted for, and this is what they voted for, and this fits with the language, and, they're doing it. So you're right. I mean, it's really great.
Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. The next item is the 2012-13 audit report, approval of findings. This is a discussion action item.
So we were able to pass out the audit reports to the board either just before the break or right after the break. And thank you, Matt and Richard sat on the audit committee, and so we did have a pre-meeting. The audit committee met with the auditor to go over the audit report. And this is a new audit firm this year. Because every so many years it's required that you switch audit partners, and so we have done that. And tonight we have Sheldon Chavon from Chavon and Associates, who will present the audit report. And thank you so much for being here tonight.
Absolutely. Good evening. Happy New Year.
Yes, thank you.
So you just received the report tonight for some of you?
No, we received it ahead of time.
Okay,
So
excellent.
we've all had a chance to read it.
All right, well, it's a lot of pages, so if you need help with that, just let me know. We can sit down and go through it in more detail. So, we are a new firm, so, I'm happy to say that it was a good audit this year. First year is always tough because you get to know new people, my staff getting used to your staff, and, it was really great getting to know Josie and working with Josie. She's top-notch. I've been doing this for 16 years, worked with a lot of different CBOs, and I'd put her right at the top of the list. So congratulations on having a good employee there. Really, a lot of times I'll come and have a nice PowerPoint presentation with some nice, transitions and things of that nature. But tonight we're just going to go ahead and do a verbal. There are some things I like to go ahead and talk about, and really it's the auditing standards that we follow. And there are 4 basic auditing standards that we follow, and it's the AICPA's Statement on Auditing Standards. Who would think a CPA would mess up CPA? And then obviously the government auditing standards. And then the Education Audit Appeals Panel, okay? Education Audit Appeals Panel, that's what we like to call EAAP. That's the State Controller's Audit Guide. So that's where we really get all the detailed audit procedures and compliance requirements related to attendance and instructional time and teacher misassignments and things of that nature. So we spent a lot of time with that audit guide, as well as the Single Audit Act. So if you spend $500,000 or more federal awards, you're going to find yourself subject to the Single Audit Act, which started back in 1994 and has changed and is ever changing year after year. So just to continue on from that, one thing that you will note this year, there's actually a few changes in the presentation of the report, and there's also some changes in the audit opinions themselves. We have the same number of audit opinions, one for each standard basically, but they're no longer called unqualified. It's a different presentation. We break up the paragraphs and we kind of identify where the management responsibilities are, where the auditor's responsibilities are, and what the opinion is. It's easier to see that. And what you note is that it's clear if you go to the opinion paragraph that it's an unmodified opinion. And that's a good thing. So you don't have to worry about that terminology unqualified anymore. It would confuse people. What did I really mean? Well, now it's unmodified. Pretty straightforward. So that's good news. So a modification means you have an exception. So in this case, for June 30, 2013, Pacifica did not have any exceptions in any of the reports that we issued. So that's an applause for your management team. So a couple other things that you'll see are some new governmental accounting standards board pronouncement. We like, as the CPAs and governmental accounting nerds like myself, we like to create work so we can bill. That's what we want to do, right? Keep surviving. And so we issued a couple of GASBs, GASB 63 and 65. Now I say we, but I have to be honest, I hate them. I absolutely hate these GASBs. They're horrible. And what they're really doing is they're introducing new terminology. So you're going to see something called statement of net position. Now, if you've ever paid attention to the dual set of financial statements that you have in this 80-page audit report, you're probably confused by why do I have a balance sheet and a statement of net assets? Well, forget the statement of net assets. It doesn't exist anymore. It's now the balance sheet and the statement of net position. So if you're comparing, compare those, okay? So you're going to see that new terminology, statement of net position. You're going to see the terminology net position instead of net assets. And you're also going to see in the future, not now, it's not in the June 30, 2013 report in your balance sheet, but you also are going to see deferred inflows of resources and deferred outflows of resources. Now, I generally don't like to talk about this stuff too much, but it's going to be important for you to get used to this because GASB 67 and 68 are coming out for June 30, 2014. And the 63 and 65 are a precursor to 67 and 68 because what's happening with that is the pension liabilities are coming. So STRS and PERS unfunded pension liabilities are going to show up in this brand new statement of net position, and they're going to be classified as a deferred inflow of resources. I don't know what the heck that is, right? What it really is a liability. That's all it really is, but they won't let you call it a liability. So, so apparently the state and GASB have something going on behind the scenes because they're working well together. Don't know what's going on there either. So, long story short, new GASBs issued at June 30, 2013. Some new GASBs coming in 2014. They're going to impact your financial statements. And getting into finalizing the results of the audit, so I don't bore you too much, it's pretty simple. When we come out, we have a good audit. It's a 3-phase audit. We come out, we do some interim work, test controls, identify key controls, interview people, test our compliance for state compliance and federal compliance. Then we come out in phase 2, year in, and we do our substantive work, which is testing cash, investments, accounts receivable, capital assets, long-term debt, all the sections that have material balance items in there. And we focus on vouching and interviewing and sampling and testing documents. And then we get to phase 3 where we do the reporting, which this is the final part of that phase 3. So as we go through that 3-phase process, usually I'll have, a chance to show you a slide where I either have my 5 no's or I have a bunch of findings. Well, in this case, you get what I like to call the 5 no's. We kind of already let the cat out of the bag on that, which means you have no exceptions, no material weaknesses. You have, I forgot my 5 no's, no significant deficiencies, no control deficiencies, and then basically my favorite one is no disagreements with management. Okay, so this is what we like to call in the industry an exceptional audit. And like I said when I first opened up, it's a team effort, and so I appreciate the effort that Josie and her staff provided to my staff and the teamwork and the cooperation. So that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions.
Matt?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say thank you for participating in the audit committee meeting. That was actually very, very helpful, and I really appreciate your hard work. And just so that I just sort of wanted to put out there so that everybody understands what the purpose of the audit is, so that, and correct me if at any point I go off the reservation, but to make sure that all of that we are actually doing and counting everything essentially the way that it's supposed to be done and counted. So when we say that this many students were present on a given day, that many students are actually present on that day. When we say that a check was issued to so-and-so for such and such an amount of money, that check was actually issued to that person for that amount of money and such, so that the public can be sure that that everything is being counted and all funds are properly accounted for. So that's the first thing. The other 2 things that I wanted to mention was the PERS and STRS obligations that we talked about, because there's been a lot of talk about unfunded pension obligations, and the one thing that I wanted to make clear is that while starting next year, our sort of share of these unfunded liabilities will wind up showing up in the audit report, there isn't really anything that we as a district can do about that. So it feels to me a little bit unfair that should show up on because we as a district pay a certain amount that's required by law into PERS and STRS, and our employees pay a certain amount that's again set into PERS and STRS. And if for whatever reason we should decide to pay more than that amount, there would be no way of assuring that our employees would get that share of it back out when they retired. It would just sort of disappear into the vast, fund of PERS and STIRS. So I just want to sort of alert people to that while, there is always the possibility that that number will appear and people have heart attacks about it, that is something that needs to be, that's something that needs to be addressed at the state level and not the local level. Is that an accurate assessment?
Yeah, it is an accurate assessment, and right now, really everything that I've heard has been speculation, and some of the numbers are pretty large. I've heard districts' liabilities on their government-wide report going from 20 million to 50 million, and that's a real early report, but it could be something that impacts bond ratings down the line 5 years from now. It could be something that increases your annual required contribution at some point. So there's going to be some significant decisions that have to be made in the near future.
Thank you.
Eric?
I just want to echo the commendation for Josie and her staff, because, to get a perfect report from a fresh set of eyes is really about as good as it can get. And that's, you had a good report last year, and again this year, when somebody new comes in and gets, is very impressive. And it's just good, like the prior speaker on the bonds, it just shows that we're transparent, we're accurate, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing with the public's money, and I think that's what we're supposed to do, and it's great that we are, and I just commend you and all of your staff. I know a lot of people were involved in this.
Yeah, thank you, and it really covers all the school sites too, because the principals and the secretaries, the auditors visit all the sites, and so thank you. Everybody worked really hard on that.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve, or I guess to accept the 2012-13 audit report.
We accept the 2012-13 audit report.
Roll call?
Trustee Faust?
Yes.
Trustee Rushames?
Yes.
Trustee Levy?
Yes.
Trustee Gould?
Yes.
Trustee Weideman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Yes, thank you. Okay, the next item is the Health Benefits Committee update. This is the information discussion item.
Okay, so during the 2012-13 school year, it was decided to create a Health Benefits Committee for Pacifica School District. So tonight I'm here with my co-chair, Patty McNally, along with various committee members on the Health Benefit Committee, who are working very hard this 13-14 school year to review healthcare costs and programs. And so we have a presentation for you. Let me get to it.
So, do you want me to, are you going to come up?
I am going to come up, yes.
Here, let me do that.
That was silly.
And is the...
Yeah, I think well known for that, Patty.
Thank you.
The clicker's up at the...
Good evening. I'm Patty McNally, 4th and 5th grade teacher at Ocean Shore School. And I first of all would like to thank the board for inviting the Health Care Benefits Committee to make a presentation this evening on the work we have done over the past 6 months. You will see that this committee is made up of a diverse group of people who wear many different hats in this district, and we've come together also with many different skill sets. What brought this group together is their passion and commitment to help collect and disseminate information in order to access high-quality, affordable health care for employees of this district. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our committee, and if they're in the audience, and I know they are, tonight, if they could stand up so we could acknowledge them, because they've really been working very hard. So, come on, committee. These folks have worked many hours of their own time. This is a volunteer committee, to become educated on this very important topic. We're fortunate to have a couple of troubleshooters in our group, so a special thank you to Sue Beckmeyer, who takes copious notes at each of our meetings and was the computer expert in developing this PowerPoint presentation for tonight. Also to Moy, who is our go-to person with all our questions, our own personal questions on our health care coverage. And also a special thank you to Josie, who hooked us up with the group Checkers in the beginning. And this group is an incredible group of people, and they gave us a really good start and guidance that we needed to develop the structure and guidelines so to get us going. And also, of course, Josie's knowledge about finance, which we just heard about from the auditor. So, we know we're in good hands. So in closing, I would like to tell the board that the Healthcare Committee has worked very hard on putting this presentation together and agreed to what's being presented tonight and are committed and unified to follow through with our purpose and goals. Now I will ask Ray, my partner in this endeavor, to do the presentation because he's a much better presenter than I am. So, thanks, Ray.
Thank you, Patty. So the presentation now will just give you a little bit more information about the committee. So an overview, again, the history of the Health Benefits Committee. We're also going to talk about committee structure, purpose, goals, give you a little bit idea of our schedule, summary of work completed up till tonight, and then time for the board to ask questions and give any comments. So the history of the Health Benefits Committee, it was initiated at the request of the board, negotiated with labor partners during the 2012-13 school year, and the Pacifica School District team met collaboratively with neighboring North County school districts for what Patty mentioned was with the Checkers organization, acronym, California Education Coalition for Health Care Reform. And this was what they called their Module 1 training. We've also had other Checkers trainings since then for our own district. The committee structure, many of them are in the room tonight. Thank you for being here. 2 teachers, Patty McNally and Debbie Little. 3 classified employees with our district, Lisa Kern, Sue Beckmeyer, and Angie Acuna. 1 confidential employee, Moy Scott. 2 district administrators, myself and Josie Peterson, and 2 site administrators, Mark Lorenzen and Debbie Skiles. The purpose of the committee, Patty has mentioned that, and we consider it our little mission statement. Our goals: to establish a calendar, arrange for presentations and meetings to become more informed, to review our fiduciary responsibilities. And we did learn this, how to do this out of the Checker Trainings Module 1 and 2. To examine our health and welfare content from each collective bargaining contract, as well as board policies that support and describing health benefits provided for board members. Create and share spreadsheet identifying of the plan options, that's soon to come, and include information about tiering, premium costs, district caps, employee contributions, other options such as dental, vision, etc. for all employee and board groups. Then disseminate all this information out to the stakeholders. So, little check marks give you an idea of what we have done up until tonight, and there should be a little check mark next to January 21st. We did have back in May of 2013 a day-long meeting for, as we mentioned earlier, with Rose Roach. She's a representative from the organization Checker and some of our neighboring districts here in the North County. Then on June 14th, we had a morning meeting to sort of plan out and map out our year, the 13-14 year. And we did that with a consultant by the name of Mike Bowers. Then we had our second training with Checker in September. And now the presentations start to roll out. In October, we had a presentation from the Keenan and Associates organization on affordable health care. In December, we met to prepare for tonight. And then yesterday, we had a presentation from the organization we currently use for healthcare programs, and that's CalPERS. We have another time to meet in February to review the benefits programs that we currently have with all of our stakeholders, also prepare for what we think might be future questions for future provider presentations, and then we also want to debrief on our discussion with the board tonight. In March, we'll hear from another healthcare organization, and that is California's Value Trust, CVT. In April, another organization, Self-Insured Schools of California, SISC. And then in May, we'll meet to prepare for our dissemination of information that we have learned about and have collected throughout the course of this year, and then a second presentation to the board in June. Questions, comments from the board? And we have an illustrious group to respond to you. So please look at them. And not at me.
Matt?
So after the presentation to the board, how will the information be disseminated to employee groups and by who?
You want to go ahead and answer that one?
Yeah. So the committee will produce that information jointly and then send out a joint communique to all of the groups.
Will there be opportunity for employees to come and ask questions of the group? It seems like if I got the communique and I was like, well, that's nice, but what about? And I wanted to ask one of you.
That's a good idea. Pardon me?
That'd probably be done with each labor group.
We would probably, yeah, we probably do it with each labor group, but that is a good idea.
Without the big board ideas.
Thank you.
Eric?
I just want to say thank you to everybody, because I know this is a gigantic task, and it's, it's hard to find an area that we're dealing with that's undergoing more change more quickly than healthcare delivery, the costs, and just I think it's so important for us to work collaboratively to try and get our hands around what's going on, because this is really one of those that it takes a community to understand what's going on. And I know that we talked about it last week at the study session. I went to the Checkers presentation in San Diego at the conference and was really impressed with what they offered, and trying to get a handle on the Affordable Health Care Act and how that's going to impact us. And it's really going to be huge, and we really have to work through it together. So it's really gratifying. I think this is a great model for problem solving within the district across all the labor group staff to be out there wrestling this down, so that it really is the interest-based concept in action outside of negotiations, where we take a problem we all have and work together to find out some solutions. So I just thank you all for putting in the time. I think it's really, really important.
Thank you for acknowledging that, Eric.
Matt?
Who is Checker exactly? Like what? I mean,
I have some flyers I can
started.
give you.
Like who started it, and where did they get the information that they're disseminating to you guys?
Yeah.
So we're going to defer to Josie.
Checkers, and they do have a website. It's pretty interesting when you look at it. It's a nonprofit, and it's comprised of management employees and classified employees and certificated employees. So it represents all groups, and they basically are very highly educated on healthcare. Some of them are retired HR directors. Some of them are current HR directors. Some of the fellows that visited from, I can't remember which school district, but they knew Wendy. They came to watch because they were learning to be Checkers presenters. So like anybody in our group, once we become highly educated, could be one of the Checkers presenters. And so they exactly. But they basically have 5 modules of training, and they come and they go through each module. And we did the first module with the 2 Jeffersons, and then they jumped to module 5, where we went to module 2. And it's just based on what kind of healthcare you have and what your needs are, and that's why they moved on to a different module. But it is a nonprofit, and they have no vested interest in telling us to go, leave CalPERS, go to CalPERS. They basically help you through the process to educate you and help you make the right choices. And they give you the structure for your group to move forward. Because we didn't know how to start the group and is it consensus or how do you move forward? And so they basically help you through that process. Can I answer your question?
Yeah, exactly.
You would like them to, Matt, because they're straight shooters. They say things that maybe
Yeah, you wouldn't hear approaches anybody.
And why do you think that
Well,
applies?
because you're like me, you have an inquiring mind, just tell me like it is. And we do that. They're very knowledgeable, and if you ask them a question, they'll say the right answer, they'll say the answer, because they're non-partisan. So it was interesting, I'd like to have them back.
You know, I have a full set of their material from the conference. I'll get around to you.
Okay. Well, thank you, and I'm sorry.
So how do you see yourselves, there'll be a presentation of the information that you've gotten in May, and then what do you foresee after that of coming to decisions? Are you mapping out a plan, you know, with checkers? I keep thinking of Nixon, I'm sorry. Does checkers kind of have a guideline for you to like set up a plan for next year to actually take this, you know, to your negotiating team and the bargaining team, and they help you with that, or got a plan for next year?
The plan is that it will go back to the labor partners and to the negotiating table. We will disseminate the information. That was our job, our purpose with this group, and our goal. We will get that back to the two groups, and we go from there. That was always the point of the committee, and we are really trying to fulfill our obligations on that in the group.
So we will have a report, that the group will write a report that will go to the labor partners.
Any other questions?
Comments?
Again, thank you.
Thank you so much for all your hard work.
Thank you. Here you go, Lynn.
Okay, the next item is Common Core Standards Implementation Update. This is information discussion item.
Okay, so as we all know, we have been working very, very diligently on the implementation of the Common Core State Standards. And what has come along with that is a new funding formula called LCFF, Local Control Funding Formula, which they really tied together in relationship to how we can provide the appropriate service to our teachers and our students and all of our employees, classified staff as well, especially with local control funding formula. So as we're making all of these shifts and changes, this is a drastic shift in funding. 40 years of revenue limit, now we're moving to the state aid apportionment. The hope and notion was for it to be a simple formula to take away all these categorical formulas, and then we hear from the auditor that they're going to be refining, right, as we go. So we're always building the plane as it's flying in the air. But it's an exciting time for us. And so one of the things that I thought would be important to bring forward to the trustees is just an ongoing update about what we're doing, because it's just a constant adding of ideas and thoughts. It's been an exciting time in having conversations, as I talked about our North County Math Consortium. We're really struggling together with this Common Core State Standards in Mathematics and how we align TK to 12. And then beyond, because we really need to start talking to our universities to make sure that they will accept the types of integrated math programs that we're offering, et cetera. So it's really an exciting time and a great opportunity. So I will be presenting for you some of those notions that we've always been talking about for the last 3 years of the 21st century education, how we're going to meet the needs of all students, and then how we meet our local needs. LCFF, truly the governor is making that statement again, that he wants the funding to be discussed at the local level, and we will develop our plans and our strategies within the local context of meeting the needs of our students. So we would have some major areas of focus, which would be the Common Core State Standards themselves, which in curriculum it's mathematics and English language arts.
Science has also been adopted to what they call the next generation standards, so I might touch upon that at some point in time. We will talk about the assessment. We are shifting from the STAR to, and I want to make sure I say it correctly, the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, CASP, so a new acronym from STAR. What one of the major shifts will be one of the assessments we will be using is called Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium, or SBAC, and that is really technologically driven. There are computers that our students will need to use, so we'll be ramping up on that. And so again, technology is now a big piece of our conversation. And then with the Common Core state standards really being a shift to focus on practices. So I'll touch upon professional development. And then of course fiscally, we will talk about the LCFF, which is a local control funding formula that also mandates what they call an LCAP, which is the local control accountability plan. How are we actually going to spend our dollars, and what actions are we going to have to support our students? And then the state did provide a Common Core state standards allocation, so we will be talking about our spending plan this evening. So first of all, in mathematics, we're really working, as I shared, with the North County Math Collaborative. We will be providing professional development our first day with SVMI, where our consultants will be helping us in our May PD day. Then we will be having a 3-day institute in the summer, and that will be with all of the school districts. The first day, the spring PD day or professional development day, will only be with Pacifica School District. It was too difficult once the school year began to get one day that everyone could meet. And so we will move to what we call the 3-day institute, which will happen either in June and August, but teachers will only attend one of the institutes. If that's not available, then we will have substitute days provided for those teachers who could not attend in the fall of 2014. What year are we? 2014. We've also have 2 days set aside as our PD days that we normally have. That will again be SVMI driven in 14-15. Then we'll move to the summer institutes again. We have 3 years of this professional development. The emphasis again will be on mathematical practices and developing math units, which leads us to our textbook adoption. We're finding that the current adoption list is not as robust as we had hoped it would be. We had our lead math teachers along with Siva, our math coach, do a review of the adoptions using a rubric, using the Common Core state standards, and we're finding that we may want to wait to see if the publishers come up with a little bit more robust curriculum, because we really want to make that shift, and it's more than just putting Common Core state standards at the top of each page, or moving the pages around or units around. And so we're very much looking forward to the SVMI Institute, because the first go out will be to really talk about how to structure a math unit. And then we were able to purchase, we got a wonderful grant opportunity for ST Math, which is a visual thinking strategy web-based math program. And so there is staff training in January occurring right now. I'm hearing good reception from the teachers, and they're very excited to get it going. Again, it's what I call a level 1 response to instruction and intervention, where all students can be on the program, and it's really about visual thinking. So
no language involved, but it really is to help them visualize the math concepts. You will hear it often called Gigi because there's a little penguin called Gigi that is kind of their module. We were able to start it at Sunset Ridge a couple of years ago, or a year ago. Four? Wow, they've been on for 4 years, and have had some exciting results from it. So we've taken it district-wide now. As far as assessments are concerned, we're finding that the MARS task has been really the only consistent form of math assessment that we will have this year. Some of the teachers do use the Envision end of unit or CPM exams, but the MARS task is our district-wide approach. In January, we're going to try a new strategy. We are, instead of scoring the task, the teachers are going to be providing feedback to the students in regards to the task, because we're finding that the student has a tendency to focus more on the score than really on where they need to develop the concepts, etc. So we're going to try this strategy and see how it works, again from Silicon Valley Math Initiative. For those students who we're seeing are having difficulty in certain areas of the task, we will have what we call re-engagement lessons for those students. We're again having difficulty with really having a robust data analysis tool, which makes it difficult for us to assist teachers in having those, good conversations about how students are doing. But we are again using Cruncher. We have a assessment tool or data gathering tool called Cruncher that we used for our CST results. So we're seeing if we can adapt that particular tool in gathering the MARS task and see if we can get some good data from that. English language arts is, we started a few years ago in that as we moved to balanced literacy. So we want to continue the work with Teachers College. We had a reading workshop institute a few years back, and now we will be bringing the Writers Workshop Institute in the summer. Depending upon the calendar adoption, we would like to have our workshop during the Institute August 18th to the 22nd, which would be the week prior to students coming back. And they will be focusing on the new units of writing. And so we're really excited. We're shifting from that one genre look to looking at perhaps 3 of the genres. Our assessment, again, we have varying levels depending on the grade levels. We have the CAMS for our kindergarten, which is the California Assessment Matrix Standard. Then we move into the DRA2, and for other grades, if it's appropriate, but it's more or less for our K through 3 students. We have developed what we call the Pacifica School District Record of Reading, because we were finding that the tool we were using was not giving us enough information on comprehension, whether the students were comprehending. Then there is a Teachers College Reading Workshop Project assessment that we provide to grades 4 and 5. And then again, grades 6 through 8 do it at the end of the year, just so that we make sure that we have that gauge, how they're progressing. We're going to do it for 8th grade as well, so that we can have a conversation with the 8th grade teachers and move that information over to the high schools. Assessment data tool, again, we're working with Cruncher, having some formatting issues. DRA2 does have online methodology in helping us assess the scores. SBAC, Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium, and again, it used to be called STAR, now it's CASP. The structure for the state is CASP. Smarter Balanced is the test that we will be using. The goal for 2014, so this spring, it's really a test of the test.
So the state is providing us opportunities of taking snippets of the different, of math and English language arts, and then we will be using that information to help us tool up for next year's implementation. So in 2015 will be the full implementation of Smarter Balanced. And again, it's going to be interesting for us to see what does that really mean. They're talking about formative opportunities, they're talking about testing over time, so we're really interested in watching this test of the test. Our focus has been to make sure that we're ready for it, so we have been concentrating on our bandwidth to make sure that once you fire up all the computers at one time, that we don't crash, that we're hardware ready, that we have enough computers for students to get on and be able to get the test completed within an appropriate amount of time. We have worked with San Mateo County Office of Ed. It's called the Superhighway Project in relationship to connectivity. Ann Campbell, the County Office Superintendent, was out along with Lori Owens, who is the Director of Technology, and Tina and Nelson spoke with them towards some of the schools. I think Tom Stafford at Cabrillo spoke with them in relationship to how we're doing at the school site, as well as Ellie at Sunset Ridge. And I must say they're highly impressed with the, pardon me?
With our plan. We aren't there yet.
Yeah.
Direction.
And I think just the thinking that has been going on and where we are, especially even with connectivity, I think Nelson has done a stellar job in helping us keep moving and expanding that. We also have a grant with San Mateo County Office of Ed through the Silicon Valley Community Foundation, which is called Analytics, and then we are participating with San Mateo County Office of Ed in what they're calling the iZone. So I will be attending that meeting tomorrow just to make sure that I get a sense of how that really fits into our strategic plan and to the work we're doing. Technology and hardware. One of the things that we found that we needed to particularly do is to start developing what we consider as baseline. No longer do we have the overhead projector. It's all about document cameras and what I learned the new term mirror devices, which is our smart board, and perhaps Apple TV could be considered. So we're having those conversations with our teachers and the technology committees just to make sure that we're consistent district-wide. What can we support? What direction do we really need to go in relationship to ensuring that our classrooms are technologically prepared for 21st century learning opportunities? Our teachers now, we're moving towards everyone is going to be is having a laptop and an iPad. They're finding that the iPad allows us to use those mirror devices in a much more robust manner. The students, we look upon the computer labs as still a very essential piece of our school right now. We're moving to what we call our carts, which will house our Chromebooks and iPads. The carts will also have Wi-Fi so that as we use the testing, the SBAC, that we will again be able to balance the need for having all of those computers fire up at the same time. And then we are looking at having stations in the classroom, especially for maybe the primary grades who might want that center approach. And again, I go back to thinking about the programs that we're purchasing. For example, ST Math can be used as a center activity for some of the students. And then we're establishing a process for ensuring that we have the finances, the money to not only do initial purchases, and again, I have to thank PTOs and PEF for their contributions, because we would not be where we are without their contributions in terms of technology and hardware.
But now, we want to establish a way that we can take ownership of that. It will take a few years. Remember, LCFF is not in full fruition until 8 years from down the road. So we're working on that as well. So for our fiscal piece, local control funding formula and LCAP, they just finalized the regulations and the draft template, so we've downloaded that. The exciting piece is I think that the legislators have listened to the educational arena and have not tinkered with the template as much, so that we can at least try to move forward in a way that truly is a local effort. We do have what we call the district leadership team, and I had that in the memo of who's participating. We wanted to have a cross-section of community staff from the various labor partner and groups. We just had our meeting January 16th, and then we will be reviewing that input information and then gaining more information and taking it to our curriculum lead. We will begin realigning our budget to reflect the current needs, and again using the LCAP and the input that we're receiving to look at what are those next areas that we need to, or what are the areas that we need to continue to support, and how are we going to support our ongoing needs. Again, I go back to us moving some of those lease dollars again away from general fund. When we were in the fiscal crisis, we dumped all of our dollars into general fund just for payroll and maintain the programs that we have. Now we can start easing back out as LCFF is providing us incremental percentage additions. Then we will be bringing forward to you today the Common Core Spending Plan. Again, looking at the 3 areas that we could spend that money on and making sure it's reflective of the areas of support that we're getting in relationship to the LCAP, but through PD, technology, and instructional materials. And then we're looking forward to our work study with the board on February 26th, where we will start bringing to you what we feel is our priorities and budget discussions. So that's what we've been doing these past few months. Are there any questions, comments, thoughts, ideas that you'd like me to bring forward to you at the next board meeting? Matt?
First of all, I wanted to say thank you for doing this. Like, I really appreciate being updated on all of this, and I know that I do hear like little drips and drabs. In pieces, it's not that I don't hear anything about it until this shows up, but it's very helpful to kind of have it all in one place. And in a couple of things in particular that I wanted to, that I noticed that I wanted to point out and say thank you for, and one is maybe holding off on the materials until they're ready. It sounds, I mean, this is based entirely on my unscientific sample of what my kids are doing, which is that it's, the attempt to implement, the mathematical practices is kind of lame at this point. So that was the first thing. It's always good to be on the leading edge and not necessarily the bleeding edge, right?
That's right.
And then also that you're making an effort to find alternate ways of getting data. I mean, I think we had said, like, it's good that, I'm sure everybody's happy that SBAC is supposed to be like the promised land of assessment, but I really don't think so. It would be so I like the idea, and I'm curious what everyone else thinks of the idea of us having our own priorities as a district for what we think is important in addition to what the state thinks is important, because that can't be, that can't be everything. And that may be sort of a much longer conversation to have, but I think it's one worth having, all of us together as, as a district, what's important to us, because it feels very much like so much of what we do is imposed on us from outside, and we have such an amazing brain trust here that I sort of feel like there will be great ideas that would come out of that. And at some point, I think we would like to see some of that, some of what comes out of all of those assessments that you're thinking about. And on the hardware question, I wanted to thank a bunch of people. First, PEF for getting us started down that whole road, and then Tina and the whole tech committee for putting us through that whole process, because I was really impressed with I didn't. Did that come out wrong?
No, actually, that came exactly right.
Let me rephrase that. No, really, it was the brain trust on that committee was very was very impressive, and I think we saw in the warrants for this month were purchases for a ton of equipment to refurbish a lot of the computer labs, and so that process is well underway, and I think there are, I really think this was true for 21st century education, and I think we started long before a lot of other people were thinking about that. And similarly for the hardware, I feel like we are, way out in front of most districts in terms of that. I mean, some districts are really lucky in that they have scads of money and they've been spending it on technology all along. That was never our, fate. And so given that, I think being able to jump in at this stage is really great, and again, that's thanks to PEF and Cabinet. So, and the last thing that I want to sort of throw in the hopper is maybe the idea of at some point figuring out the logistics for how we might allow students to take computers or iPads home if they don't have them. And I know that in some places in the district that's already something that people are working on, but it seems like in the long run that might be something for a district plan or whatever.
And we have thought about that.
No.
Yeah. Thank you, but
thanks.
Yeah.
Andrea? So when you're talking about with the North County Math Collaborative and the Professional Development Day, are we doing joint professional development with our collaborative, or are we just doing?
Except for the May one. The May one is.
May one is just ours.
All the rest of them are collaborative.
And does this fit the kind of the schedule we talked about before, where there were, you've got 3 days, June or August or whatever, okay, so this is, we have some.
Teachers will have flexibility in selecting which institute they want to attend, or if they can't attend either, because we know it's, during their vacation time, that we will have substitute days so that we would pull them out.
And then we're saving the week right before school starts for Teachers College.
Mm-hmm. For writing workshop.
Okay. All right. So I was a little bit concerned here about that. We can't figure out how to put this data into Cruncher.
Yeah. Well, because I shouldn't say it that. What it is it's very cumbersome. We have to load it in manually, so it takes a lot of time. So my hope would be, in this day and age, you would either use a Scantron or do something to help us get it in faster, because if you don't, the time goes by, and with the need for real-time data. So there really isn't a strong product out there that we have seen, or I've seen. And so I'm hoping by being part of this analytics group that we will be developing our own. When you're a district of our size, I've worked for districts that have built their own program, and so you can do your own assessments, and it's instant. It's fabulous. And so my hope would be that if we are part of a consortium or a group, that we can follow suit and get some information in a much more timely way. So that's been the struggle. But yeah.
Okay. So Cruncher has not been the end all here, has it?
No, but it does what it's a strong tool for what it was meant to do. So I don't want to badmouth the tool, but for what we want, we're forcing it to be something that it was not meant to be. And I appreciate the person helping us build it, because that's exactly what he's doing. So.
And then we're getting this technology. We want to be ready for this field test. are we gonna have everything like in place for our window? When is our window for the?
Yeah. It begins April 7th, 6 weeks long. We have a plan to get everything in place on time. We will, I'm sure at some point, give a presentation to the board when the tech plan is finalized, but we wanted to allow all teachers to have input, and so the STEM leads are taking it out to the staff over the next, actually, they have to report to me on Monday, so they've probably already gone out to their staff about that, and so on Monday we'll be getting input from the STEM leads, and it'll be just about ready to bring back here, and that will include a time frame for all of this.
We just need that computing to be like saved off for the testing during that window, so we've got a plan for how we're gonna use that during the rest of the year.
And that's how we did, the committee worked the other way. It said, what would a 21st century equipped classroom look like? What would it look like in our school if we had everything we think we would need and use? And then we said, okay, given that, how can we get towards that plan and fulfill the needs of SBAC? So, we started with the big picture in mind.
I can add something at a slight level. I'm just saying that we have 68 Chromebooks, and we're currently using for STMath, for typing and writing, using the web for writing, so we're using them already. And we're ready to go for testing, so but we really pushed it because we had our training January 8th, so we got everything up and running, so.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Good. So just a couple things. I'm glad we're waiting on the textbook adoption. Having teaching out of a Common Core book and seeing what they've actually done with it. I'm teaching out of a 6th grade book, the 7th grade book, and I have the algebra book. And then my math A kid, what the Common Core book was, they just took a bunch of stuff from all those books, they slapped it together, put it in some sort of crazy order, and slapped Common Core on it. So I think, one of the things I went to about the professional development was, I think there was a website that I found, or that I had, that had good rubrics for the Common Core stuff. Did I get that to you, Tina?
I don't know. Was it from UC? Wait, no.
I'll look and see. Okay. There was something from the CSBA that had a pretty good rubric for assessing Common Core materials.
I think the one that we used, we got from the county, the one that teachers used.
Okay, all right.
Just recently.
Okay. And then the other thing is just to echo, I appreciate to hear that the technology was really about student use and then figuring out the testing. Because kids, in order to be successful on the, with the testing, and I certainly am not a big fan of testing for the sake of testing, but they have to have the access to practice. So we've got to be integrating that in the classrooms that they feel comfortable with it, and it doesn't take hours because they don't know what to do. Anything else? Okay, moving on. Now we're going to talk about Common Core spending. You know what we're doing, how are we paying for it?
So, Assembly Bill 86, Section 85, appropriated money for Common Core implementation. Our allocation in Pacifica was $650,000 approximately. This money can only be spent in one of 3 ways: professional development, instructional materials, or technology. And so we needed to, in order to spend this money, we have to have both a Common Core implementation plan as well as a spending plan. And so we can't spend any of the money until this is approved by the board. It has to come to a meeting for discussion and then back for approval at a second meeting. And the funds have to be spent sometime after the plan is approved, but before the end of the 14-15 school year, so by June of 2015. So the plan needed to address certain areas, especially those 3 areas of professional development, materials, and technology. So we used a template out of UC Davis that aligned with the requirements. And what we did was just go through the template and kind of note what plans we have in place for addressing these different areas. So Wendy went over pretty much all the things that we're doing, so I'm not going to go through the implementation plan piece by piece, but I can't answer questions on it if you have questions. But the spending plan, so we took this implementation plan and all of our initiatives that are going forward and thought about the different funds that can pay for the different things that need to happen, and came up with where the gaps are. And we really, with the money that we have from the federal categoricals with Title I and Title II, we have some money to be spending on professional development, but we also, with the institutes, will be having a little more expense than typically we would have. And so the proposed expenditures is to spend a little over half of the money on the Summer Institute for Teachers College to come. The other piece of it we had earmarked for the mathematics textbook adoption, because that money is harder to come by. You can't use the federal money on textbooks because it's for students that have low income or who are English learners, things like that, and we can't just buy textbooks for them and not for anybody else. And so the reason that the math textbook adoption is still on this plan is because we're hopeful after the SVMI training and another year goes by, some more materials might come out that we really could invest in. So the plan that's come before you is to spend about 51% of the money on professional development and 49% on materials. So the plan can be adjusted at future board meetings if needed, but I think that this would be a way for us to go ahead and get started spending the money. With the Common Core implementation plan wouldn't really change, but the spending plan could if we can't find appropriate math materials.
Can we bank the materials, the money, the Common Core money that we spend on materials? Like we can bank the?
No, what we would have to do if we decide not to do a math adoption is to probably move that money, or spend more on professional development, or spend, so money that we would have spent on the math trainings, for instance, we could come out of this rather than out of Title I or Title II. Or we could buy technology out of this, and the money we would have spent on technology then could be saved for a math adoption. But, as we've been talking about the technology money coming out of capital, which cannot go to materials. So it's, this balancing act that the best case scenario is we are able to find appropriate materials by June of 2015, and then this money can go to that, and we don't have to try to find a way to have that.
There's some reasonable hope that that'll happen.
Well, that's a very good question. The hope, I think, is coming from what we're going to learn through SVMI. I think October of next year is when I'll be able to answer that question. So after we've gone through the Summer Institute and the one Professional Development Day, I'd like to be able to say, okay, now we have an idea of what we really need, because we're looking at this through a different lens. We've had this practice with building a unit and seeing what kind of materials our teachers really need. And then if at that point we start looking and we can't find what the teachers need, then we may need to pay teachers to develop it. We may need to look for different avenues. That's what they've done in New York, is they've started paying teachers to develop materials and putting them on release time and things like that. So, and if that's the case, then we may be able to find money to pay people rather than buying things. And so anyway, so I think that October of 2014 would be when I feel like we'll have a clearer picture of that.
What I would say is the other thing is we can be having conversations with our legislators to let them know that we want to buy quality materials and we need this money, we need to be able to bank it. And maybe there can be some legislative process, because I don't think they want us to spend money on materials that we don't feel are appropriate, but yet they have a sense of urgency to spend the money. So I think if we're in communication with people who make the decisions in Sacramento, as well as we go along, that there's a possibility they'll tweak.
Well, I would think along that line that there's pressure on the textbook publishers to come up with something that's more acceptable. I mean, they want to make sales, that's their business, so I would think that that feedback going back to them that what they have now is unacceptable, you know, hopefully will.
I'm sure they're just waiting for Pacifica School District.
Why wouldn't they?
But everybody that's looking at materials
everybody-
is saying the same thing to the publishers.
Right.
This is just your old material, you just slap Common Core on. I mean, like, every conversation I've had with
Right.
districts around the Bay Area.
So, I mean, the issue then becomes that if we're all forced to spend the money, then the publishers have won out.
Well, and so if it did come to this, and we weren't ready for it, could we potentially say accelerate technology purchases next year, do an extra year of technology purchases next year, and then hold the funds that would ordinarily have gone into capital outlay for the following year or something, right? Would that be doable? Like, so it seems like if we really needed to, it's not like it would be impossible for us to hold off on the math adoption and still hold back that money. Yeah, Jones, is someone there? I know there's
I just really, in terms of having a conversation with the public, we have to be very careful about that. Sorry. Yeah. Any more questions from the board? I mean, if you'd like to speak, that's something else. If you'd like to. Okay. Anything else on this topic? Okay, so this comes back for an action item at the next meeting. Okay. All right, so now we're on to school accountability report cards. This is a discussion action item.
All right, so the school accountability report card is a state mandated document that must be completed every year, and it's designed so that the public can, in a snapshot, look at some of the key attributes of every school. So the state has changed the template for this, so you'll see that it's a little bit longer than it has been in years past, but this will, if approved by you tonight, will be linked to our website for each school and submitted to the state. It's just, like I said, it's information compiled about each school.
Any discussion, questions, Matt?
Random observations from looking through them. Like I wanted to give Sunset Ridge some serious credit for their similar schools rank, because I noticed that, as you look at every school has different student populations to work with, and I think that given the student population that that Sunset Ridge is working with, that really reflects the work that's going on up there. So I wanted to give some props to that. And then I just wanted to ask about, I noticed there were a few teacher misassignments, and I know that we're working on those. But is there a timetable? A timetable for taking care of the teacher misassignments? I noticed 2 at IBL and 1 at Ocean Shore.
So they're currently, if they are in a misassignment, they're currently on an emergency authorization, and we hope to complete that within the reasonable time frame given by the county office.
Eric?
Yeah, I was kind of struck by what Matt was talking about with the breakdown of the demographics, how different and what a wide range of students we have. Sometimes we think of this as the kind of homogeneous district, and it's really got a lot of different folks from different backgrounds in it. And it's interesting to kind of be reminded of that we have a great diverse population that our staff is dealing with, and that's no small challenge. Do you need a motion?
Yeah, well, if we're done with discussion, I don't want to ever
We could discuss after.
Okay. Yes, so we needed a motion to approve the school accountability report cards for our schools.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Trustee Faust.
Yes.
Trustee Rushames.
Yes.
Trustee Levy.
Yep.
Trustee Gould.
Yes.
Trustee Wyden.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're on to tentative agreement between Pacifica School District and LSEA for 2013-14. It's an action item.
Okay, here we go. So.
It's like you think we're going to say no?
First of all, I just want to acknowledge the collaborative work that was done with the district negotiations team and the LSEA negotiations team led by President Debbie Little, along with the LSEA members on that team. So the tentative agreement in front of the board that is proposed is a 3.5% salary increase. Fix this so everybody can see it. 3.5% salary increase effective July 1st, 2013. Also in the agreement is the current $8,300 stipend on the psychologist salary schedule will be embedded into the psychologist salary schedule. And negotiations will begin in sufficient time to bargain the recommendations that come from the Health Benefits Committee that you heard from tonight. So it is recommended that the board approve this tentative agreement between the district and LSEA.
Eric?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I read it before and didn't catch it. Number 2, is number 2 the same as number 3?
Correct.
Okay.
Now I understand number 2 when you said psychologist. I didn't, like, it wasn't clear in what you wrote that was the psychologist, but I'm assuming it's clear in the agreement.
Yes.
Well, let's leave it something for 5 or 6 years from now for folks to try to understand.
It is.
Josie, I'm sorry, it was just a joke.
All right, any more questions?
No.
Okay, all right, well, I need a motion.
I move that we accept the tentative agreement between the PSD and the LSEA.
Second.
Can we have a discussion, just make a comment?
Yes, please do.
I just want to thank everybody. You know, it's been a long time since we've been able to amicably go forward and actually increase compensation for the staff who have not had any in a long time. And it's really a pleasure for us to be able to do that, because after so many lean years, it's misery after misery, and it's really nice to take a step forward and to try and move this in a positive manner. And I just think it's great to be able to do it in a great model of problem solving to get it done. So, thanks to all the staff at all the levels who made it happen.
Okay, we're ready for a roll call.
Trustee Faust?
Yes.
Trustee Rushames?
Yes.
Trustee Levy?
Yes.
Trustee Gould?
Yes.
Trustee Weideman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have the tentative agreement between Pacifica School District and CSEA for 13-14, and this is an action item.
Okay. So again, thank you to the collaborative work that was held between the district and CSEA, along with President Lisa Kern. There were several CSEA members on the negotiations team, so thank you to Lisa and the team. With this tentative agreement proposed to the board tonight, it is proposing a 3.5% salary increase retroactive to July 1st, 2013 for 12-month employees, and retroactive to August 1st, 2013 for 10-month employees. The second item proposed is that negotiations will begin in sufficient time to bargain recommendations from the Health Benefits Committee as well. And this was ratified January 15th. So it is recommended to the board?
Yes, I know, I'm just seeing, okay, seeing no need for discussion, I need a motion.
I move that we approve the tentative agreement between PSD and CSEA.
Okay, roll call?
Trustee Faust?
Yes.
Trustee Rushames?
Yes.
Trustee Levy?
Yes.
Trustee Gould?
Yes.
Trustee Weideman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now we need to have an action item for unrepresented employees, 13-14 compensation for LSNA.
So this is a compensation agreement with the Laguna Salada Management Association. And before I proceed, I just want to note that on the board memo, I forgot to mention our confidential employees along with the certificated and classified management. So know that tonight, when I discuss this compensation agreement, I'm also including confidential employees. Okay? To my confidential employee partners.
Take the pen out of his ribs.
Okay, so in this compensation agreement, I want to also acknowledge the president of LSMA, Mark Lorenzen, who's in the audience tonight, and thank you for the hard work that he does in representing the Management Association and collaborating with our management colleagues. So the compensation agreement is a 3.5% salary increase effective July 1st, 2013. The second item is another 0.4 increase, and this is to adjust for the 1.9% that was allotted this year for health and welfare benefits. That became an increase from the 2013-14 projection of 1.5%. And this is to go into effect also July 1st, 2013. And finally, with this proposal, the certificated management salary, only the certificated management salary will increase by one step, a sixth step, to create parity with the other management salary schedules, and that is proposed to go into effect July 1st, 2013. So I ask that the board, I recommend the board that they approve this.
I'd just like to clarify why management is different than our certificated and CSEA, and that is because the management has caps health and welfare benefits, and as part of their negotiations, they've chosen to take that in salaries as opposed to in health and welfare benefits. So just so that everyone's clear what the difference is and why there's a difference. So the overall compensation increases is the same for every group, it's just allocated differently.
Move approval?
Yes. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Faust.
Yes.
Trustee Rusheim.
Yes.
Trustee Levy.
Yes.
Trustee Gould.
Yes.
Trustee Weideman.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's getting old fast.
Okay. All right. We're getting to that. Okay. Here we go. Action item. Pacifica School District Laguna Salada Education Association contract negotiation proposal.
So no rest for the weary.
I thought it was wicked.
Okay, so we've settled one and we're going to start the next.
And here we go.
Here we go.
Yes, we do not let any dust settle under our feet. And so this proposal is for LSEA and the district to Sunshine to open up contract negotiations for the 14-15 school year. And so it is.
Oh.
They stay home.
I thought I'd stayed at the end. And we have plenty more to go.
That's it for me. Anyway, I'm really glad you agreed to the tentative agreement tonight because we're here to Sunshine, just like Ray said. We decided to get right on this again. And as you know, the 3-year contract, we're in the middle of really trying to revise and update this contract. We've been working all year with our subcommittee, and so this is going to be a major component in the negotiations this year, is to get it cleaned up and actually have it say what we're doing. There's some corrections that need to be done. So anyway, we are working on that, and also, as always, we have several articles that we're going to focus on. Some that are very similar to yours. And we also hope that we'll be able to continue to use the interest-based bargaining process. That has worked well for us this year. And we hope to get some things settled again early. And like you said, Eric, it is great to be able to get a raise on the pay scale this year. And we hope it continues as well. So thank you very much and take care.
Thank you, Patty and Debbie. You're welcome.
So I appreciate that we're going to look at the whole contract, because I think the last go-around, and correct me if I'm wrong, Patty, but we didn't do a whole lot the last time it came up because we were a little busy with other things, crisis management. So I think it's nice, we really haven't had a chance to look at our contract thoroughly for about 6 years. So.
And we're meeting every month, Josie.
Okay, so thank
Go
you.
through article by article, and it really has been working pretty well, so.
Yeah, okay. We appreciate that. That's no easy task, so thank you. Okay, we need a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Okay, trustee Faust. Trustee Rushames.
Yes.
Trustee Levy.
Yes.
Trustee Gould.
Yes.
Trustee Wyman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay,
Sandy's
yeah.
going to want more pay for this year. A lot more work for her.
She's going to start charging us by the word. Okay, Pacifica School District and this California School Board Employee Association contract negotiation proposal for 14-15. This is an action item.
So, our other labor partner, CSCA, again, no dust settled under their feet as well. CSCA and the district have a sunshine proposal for the 14-15 school year to open up contract negotiations. And we have our president, Lisa Kern, and we also have Sue Beckmeyer joining her.
Lisa, Sue. Can you put the contract language up? Is it on there? We also are very excited to begin our next round of collaboration with the district in working on our contract for 14-15. And along with a number of items that fall under compensation, I feel like I said this a year ago, but it's always been an interest of ours to take a good hard look at the provisions with regard to the retirement and health and welfare benefits for our members to make sure that we're being completely in parity with the other groups in the district. So that's a big emphasis for us and something that our members ask about continuously. And so there you see it. And we look forward to successful collaboration under IBB, and we look forward to our continuing relationship going forward.
And thank you for agreeing to our tentative agreement and voting on that tonight. Thank you so much. Our members were very happy.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Sue.
I move that we accept the CSEA contract negotiation proposal for the 2014 school year.
I'll second.
No.
Mr. Levy second.
Got it?
Trustee
All
Faust?
Go ahead. I'm sorry, John. You know the drill.
Sandy, why don't you mix it up? Like start with Andrea and work middle out.
Okay, Trustee Whiteman.
No.
Yes.
Trustee Gould.
Yes.
Trustee Levy.
Yes.
Trustee Rushames.
Yes.
Trustee Faust.
Yes.
Thank you.
See, I like this because no matter which way.
Next time she starts in the middle.
She's going to start with you next.
Okay, all right, we got a couple more so we can get out of here, okay? All
Are you
right.
losing control?
We're getting punchy up here.
All right, so we have
Well, look at action item.
approval for the 14-15 school year calendar. This is an action item.
Okay.
Okay, Ray.
So, it's finally here, a proposed 2014-15 school year calendar for Pacifica School District. Before they leave, I want to thank Debbie and Patty. I definitely want to thank Debbie and Patty, along with Lisa and Sue, and also Ellie, who have been on the calendar committee. And Tina came and joined us as well to come up with the calendar that you're looking at tonight. So thank all of you ladies. We're just on all these committees together, and we're one big happy family.
The best way to thank them is to let them go.
So, thank you and bye-bye.
Do they have to have a motion before they go?
Second. All right, let's come back, guys. I love the humor, but I want to.
Yes. Okay, so with this calendar, I just want to make note that we do have all the appropriate days allotted for, with the beginning of the school year for students starting on Wednesday, August 27th, 2014, and ending with the last, I'm sorry.
How'd that happen?
The last day of the school year will be on Wednesday, June 17th, 2015.
How does this align with the high school?
So it,
Have they adopted yet?
they have not, to our knowledge, they have not adopted their calendar yet, nor were we able to secure a draft. We are aligned with winter break and with spring break, to our knowledge. But we are not sure if their ski week is going to be the same as ours. And we are starting, if they follow the same calendar year that they had this current year, we will be starting a couple weeks after them and finishing a couple weeks after them as well.
So we're aligned on spring break also this year? Because I know this year we did not.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, one of my kids' teachers at high school has one spring break. His wife, who works for Woodside, has another spring break, and his kids who go to Ortega have yet a third.
Yes.
So none of them have break together.
So how we received the notice that we were aligned for spring break was an informal notice. So I do want to make that very clear because their calendar has not been adopted. So it could come out different, but we had our inside source there that helped us better understand when they were taking those two major breaks.
Would it be a breach of etiquette for us to formally send this to them and say, well, you didn't tell us what you're doing, but here's what we're doing? Perhaps,
I'd be happy to.
as hint?
The other thing I wanted to point out about the calendar is we will be flipping those first couple of days when employees start coming back. The first day, the 25th, is when the teachers will come back and will go to work in their classrooms immediately. We won't have meetings, they'll be able to go and set their classrooms up. Then on the 26th is when we'll have the welcome to 14-15 school year, and that way the classified, should they want to attend, I don't know if that's is that a work day, Lee?
It is for
some?
I can actually.
Okay.
She's a staff
yes,
you're a staff person
responding to the.
It is for some, and,
It should be a work day for all. Oh, for all? All time information, okay. And so we wanted, we flipped it so that CSEA members could attend as well, because we used to have it on the first day and they weren't back at work yet. And so we really appreciate the collaboration involved, because, you know, it's hard to change. And so it's sort of like, can we go ahead and do that? And it was well received. All the questions answered? Okay, we need a motion to approve the calendar?
I move that we approve the calendar for 14-15 school year.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Faust?
Yes.
Trustee Rushanes?
Yes.
Trustee Levy?
Yes.
Trustee Gould?
Yes.
Trustee Wyden?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, that was
Okay.
fast.
All right, so we are up to certificated substitute teacher pay increases. This is a discussion action item.
Okay. So with our substitute, certificated substitute daily pay rate, there has not been an increase for this daily pay rate, short-term or long-term, in several years. We also looked around with our neighboring districts, and as you can see, we were at the low end in comparison to what our neighboring districts could offer their certificated subs. So it is recommended to the board that we do move towards an increase in substitute teacher pay rates. We would like to propose that for short term, it goes up to from $105 per day up to $130 per day. And then for long term, from $120 per day up to $145 per day. I'd also like to mention that if this were to go in effect, we would begin at February 1st for payroll purposes.
Seeing no discussion, can we have a motion to approve?
Move approval?
Second.
Roll call?
Trustee Faust?
Yes.
Trustee Rushanes?
Yes.
Trustee Levy?
Yes.
Trustee Gould?
Yes.
Trustee Wydeman? Thank you.
Yes. Okay. We have new job descriptions for the Lindemar Education Center Director and Technology Support Technician. This is an action item.
Okay. I don't know if I can see. If you aren't tired of hearing from me yet, our computer seems to have frozen.
Set it up.
Yeah. So we have two new job descriptions to propose to you. I'm going to speak to the Lindemar Education Director, Center Director position, and Tina's here to speak to the Technology Support Technician. The Lindemar Education Center Director position will supervise the overall program of the Lindemar Educational Center, which includes our special education preschool program. It is recommended that we take an existing staff member, Jennifer Gray, who is the current supervisor of the behavioral support program, and embed additional duties into her current assignment, which will then become the new job title of Lindemar Educational Center Director. This will allow for an increase of visibility of a leader on that campus, accessibility for all the stakeholders that are on that campus, parents, staff, and of course our little preschoolers that are there. They are just too funny. We love them so much. And it will allow for constant open communication, having somebody there in a consistent fashion.
Oh, for the technology support technician position, this job description was developed by surveying other school districts' positions around us, as well as talking with CSEA. We see a need to add this position because we have one person trying to provide technical support to the entire district and bringing on many new devices. So this position would be someone to support the student technology and the teacher technology, hardware and software.
Trying to get us back alive here. I apologize.
We've all got it.
Okay.
Although the public may see it. Any questions, discussion? Matt?
I just want to say on the technology support technician, the only qualification is knowledge of computers, including knowledge of database programs and internet, and that just seems super, super vague to me. And so I was hoping that could maybe include either some more specific educational requirements or some specific areas of knowledge or certifications or something that was relevant to exactly what we wanted them to do. You know, if we want them to be responsible for managing Google Docs accounts, could it say that? If we want them to be able to replace memory in computers, can it say that? Like, if we can sort of look at what we actually need, and I think that would make it easier on your part to get that person.
Right, so I want to thank you for give me a heads up that you had this question. So one thing is that we did intentionally leave it vague so that we wouldn't have to rewrite it every time that technology changes. But that being said, I do think that boosting the qualifications component would help us be a little bit more specific, like you said, for someone looking at the job. So I had some proposed changes that I was thinking that we would add, instead of just knowledge of computers, we would add computers including various platforms such as PC, Mac, Chromebooks, and tablets. That we would add routine maintenance methods and procedures regarding hardware support, and then add a line, knowledge of instructional software. And then for the education and experience, rather than having them as two separate bullets, to combine them and say that required would be a high school graduate with training, education, or previous job relatable experience to the qualifications listed above. And preferred post-secondary education in a related field, or at least 2 years related job experience. So the board could either approve it with those changes that I told you, and then that would go out like that, or I could bring it back in February.
I mean, I would be okay approving it with the changes if everybody else is okay with it. I just, like, I think, you know, I'm thinking in terms of, I'm also thinking of it from in terms of the people who might be applying for the job in order to look at that and try to go, is that me or not?
And it is a little bit more
you know?
specific on the essential duties part.
That's true.
There is some more specificity in that part, but for the qualifications and what experience they would already have coming in, we didn't want to limit that necessarily.
I'm okay with if everybody else is.
I'm okay with the addition.
Okay, so can we have a motion to approve both job descriptions with the additions presented tonight?
I move that we accept both job descriptions with the listed changes.
I'll second. I'll take it.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Faust.
Yes.
Trustee Rushames.
Yes.
Trustee Levy.
Yes.
Trustee Gould.
Yes.
Trustee Whiteman.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, we have, the next item is approval of request for proposal, food service management company. This is an action item.
And thank you, Lisa, for staying until the end.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, it's not over yet.
So what we're requesting is for the board to authorize staff to issue the request for proposal because it's currently in review at the California Department of Education. This is the first year that they have changed the way the RFPs are done. In the past, school districts would write their RFPs and issue them, and the state really had very little involvement. And I think this is a good thing that the state has really gotten involved because it started in the fall. We completed a questionnaire, they reviewed the questionnaire, and before they gave us the RFP template, we had to complete the questionnaire and make sure that our current contract met their standards. So they're really looking closely at all of the school districts and their food service contracts, and it's really been providing very good guidance for us. That it's all standardized now on the state level. And so we've been working on this, and we have a committee. Lisa Kern is the regional kitchen manager, and she was able to get a couple of the kitchen employees to join us. It's Lori Bloom and Darcy Fields is from Cabrillo, and then Lori Bloom is from IBL. And then Brenda Cicerone here in the office worked with us on this RFP. And as we move forward, it would be nice if we could, after we're done presenting, maybe have a board member also join the committee once I explain what the expectations are. So it is still in the review phase. I did get the first reviewer to approve it, and it has been sent on to the final review now. So I'm anticipating that it should be approved any time now. But what will happen is, if you looked at the RFP, is there's a schedule of events and timelines. Once we get final approval, I will modify all the schedule of events and timelines. For example, you have to do a newspaper posting for so many days, and then you have to have a set date for a mandatory bid walk where they will come and visit the sites, and Lisa and I would tour them and show them. Then there would be a formal bid opening date. And so all of those dates would be revised if, depending on when the state reviews, finalizes their approval of the contract. So that's the kind of an update on the RFP. It is a requirement every 5 years, as with the audit contract. Every 5 years, we have to go out and do a new request for proposal. And so this is another 5 years we've had Sodexo. And just to kind of go back a little bit, we have had a consultant since 1999. And when our food service director retired, and that was before my time, but when she retired, we were at a loss of $130,000 in the food service program. And the program was losing $30,000 a year. So we switched to a consultant at that time, and because they're a big company and they focus on food service and they have that expertise and they have the purchasing power, they were able to help us make money the first few years. And so we did pay back the general fund for the loss over the years. I think it took, I can't remember, 5 years or so. So we've been operating mostly at a break even, slight surplus, sometimes a slight loss. When we had the tsunami, we lost money that year. The last couple of years, we have lost money in the child nutrition program, but because of our agreement with Sodexo, they actually write us a check at the end of the year. We do kind of a reconciliation, how much of the loss is because of low sales or poor projections, and how much of it is because of our payroll costs or our enrollment or our serving days. And so, for example, the tsunami was a serving day, and because we didn't anticipate that. We paid our employees and we had some food purchases, and so that was something, if you were on the board at that time, we were the ones who absorbed that portion of the loss. So that's kind of how it's been going with the consultant. I think it's worked well for our district because we are kind of, a small staff here, and to have somebody with that expertise has worked well. So we're at the final review stage, and hopefully it'll be approved soon. And if there is anybody on the board who would like to assist us with that process, what it would entail is, once we receive the bids, we would get together as a committee, and we have a little rating sheet that we developed mostly from feedback from CDE, and we would go through the bid packets and kind of do a rating of each proposal, and then we would come up with the finalists and then bring that to a future board meeting for approval. So that's kind of what the process entails, and I think it might take up, maybe a couple days' time over, a few hours here or a few hours there.
At a meeting, or could it be done?
It would be a separate committee meeting with Lisa and Lori and Darcy and Brenda and myself.
So that's an afternoon meeting?
We'd have to schedule it, when it's convenient for everybody.
You're volunteering, you're raising your hand over there? Okay. Any comments?
I have a question, not on that, but you compared this to our auditors.
Mhm.
Does that mean we have to change consult, or?
Every 5 years, you're required to do a request for a proposal.
Right, but
This
I
one you don't
understand
have
with the
to
auditor,
change.
we have to change. With,
This one you do not have to change.
okay, so we could,
Yeah,
it
this
would
one's
continue
different.
into that, so
Exactly.
if they're the,
That's a good question.
okay, thank you. I'll support Richard's candidacy.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, so the only comment I had, and I apologize, but I didn't think it was too substantive, but on page 6, where it talks about description of food services and goals, and I know it's not intended to be in any particular order, but when you read stuff, you think about what would be number 1, and the top is prepares and delivers vended meals to Brisbane and Bayshore school districts. Could we, and I'll give this to you, Wendy, the notes. I think we should start with provide an appealing and nutritionally sound program for students as economically as possible, as our start goal. And
Okay.
potentially, the second bullet being stimulate both student and adult participation, and then 3, increase what is the kind of, sort of, at least put the top important ones at the beginning, because when I read this, I'm like, we're doing what? I mean, so I think as an outside vendor, it's important for them to see what's our priorities, and that's be at the, kind of at the top of the list. That would be the only suggestion that I might have for some proposal.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think, hold on, I think this is an action item. Yes, it is. So we need a motion to approve the request for a proposal.
I will move that we approve the RFP for PSD Food Service Management Company.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Trustee Faust.
Yes.
Trustee Rushames.
Yes, ma'am.
Trustee Levy.
Yes.
Trustee Gould.
Yes.
Trustee Weideman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, second quarter report on Williams uniform complaints. This is an information item.
Yeah, as part of the compliance with the Williams, you have to do a quarterly report to show if there were any complaints, and I'm happy to report for the second quarter, there were no complaints in any of the various categories, and it's listed on the second page. Under textbooks and instructional materials, teacher vacancy or misassignment, or the facility conditions. And so we will submit this to the County Office of Ed.
Comments? All right, so we are down to board bylaws, policies, and administrative regulations, BP 6159, instruction, first reading.
So it became clear to all of our stakeholders back in June of 2013 that we were in need as a district to develop a definition for inclusion of our students with special needs. So with that, a committee was convened in August of 2013, and that committee had a nice representation of all of our stakeholders, including also members from our SELPA and the San Mateo County Office of Education, Special Education. The committee met a couple times and then created a draft proposal for this definition, and then that draft proposal was vetted to all of our stakeholder groups in the district, which included site principals, counselors, psychologists, certificated and classified teaching staff, labor organizations, the SMCOE Special Ed Department, and our SALPA. Several revisions were made until we came up with the proposed definition that you are looking at tonight. With that being said, I'd like to thank Board Member Levy in making a suggestion that we become a little bit more grammatical correct. So the last sentence of the proposed definition, if you look at the first page of Board Policy 6159, that last sentence is currently proposed as, our goal for all of our students is to promote their independence and become active members of our community. I'd like to suggest that we change it to, our goal for all of our students is to promote their independence so that they can become active members of our community. A little bit more grammatically correct.
Any comments?
Questions? I know this is the first reading of this proposed definition for inclusion.
Thanks to everyone for working so hard on that. I know that that's very, I know that's very important to the special education community. And so I really hope that becomes like a platform for, for realizing inclusion in our classrooms.
Okay, so we'll bring it back on consent. Okay, future agenda items. Okay, I propose that we move the board bylaws, policies, and administrative regulations, December 2013 annual maintenance first reading to March, since February is a short month and evidently we just got our packet and they're, sorry to say, a number of them.
So block out some time.
Yeah,
Okay.
that it'll give us time to take a look at them. And I remember that we had talked about if there were too large that we might want to break them up, so we might, we might put some here. It just depends. I'll take a look at it because I haven't looked at them closely.
I think it's easier to focus when there's fewer.
Okay. So I may, it depends on if we can get like some chunks done. And I think that's it. Anything else?
Anybody's pleasure to add more to our meetings? Was that said in a particular way?
Richard?
Well, just to point out that we have less than 2 months before the house starts.
Thank you.
Experienced board president. All right, do you want to sign up for?
Sandy, did we, is Cabrillo 520? Thank you.
Yes. Guys, we have March 20th.
Hang on.
I can do that one.
There you go.
Oh.
I can take Ortega. Okay.
I would, let me see if I can do these, but I would appreciate the opportunity to go to some schools that I've been derelict in spending enough time at. So Cabrillo and Ocean Shore. Let me see if I can do the 20th and 22nd. Yeah, at the moment those look fine, so I'll just put, can I take those two?
Yep, and more than one board member to go. We just need to have a minimum of one.
Well, I'll go to Sunset Ridge on the 10th.
I can do Ballimore on the 8th.
And LMEC is an 8:30 in the morning on April 23rd.
It's a Wednesday.
you'd like me to volunteer.
Yes.
Eric, it's cute. I wish I could go.
And Ms. Joan, are you doing IBL?
I'll do IDL. Because I don't know when my open house is, but I understand it's kind of later, so.
So is that a name for every spot?
Yep, we
Yes.
have, IBL is me, Valamar is Eric, Ortega is Richard, Sunset Ridge is Andrea, LMEC is Eric, and Cabrillo and Ocean Shore, we'll see Matt. Okay. All right, anything else? Adjourned at 9:42.
Wow.